Welcome to Feed Courage. Let's explore the inspiring stories of athletes, business owners, musicians, creatives, your regular humans. These people have taken bold steps to overcome obstacles in big events or just your daily life. These people have a wealth of knowledge and the inspiration to share. I personally am a fan of all of them. I'm your host, Oz from Lead Wolf. So let's get started and meet our next guest.
My name is Chris Soriano, Bonita, California. Oh man, I do the things I do because I feel like we all got, unique talents, and I just felt like I had a talent for writing or creating stories. Oh, Goodfellas. Yeah, that was the first movie. My cousin showed me the film, and I was used to like Home Alone and those type of movies. But when he played Goodfellas, he was like, "No, you gotta watch this." And I was like, okay. And when I saw it, it really showed me that first narration of, as far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. That kind of narration was like, dang, this is cool. I felt very attached. A lot of my philosophy in life has come from Godfather. Make them an offer they can't refuse. The first film I made was in the pandemic. I really was always fascinated with film growing up. But at 18, it was like the 2008 recession or somewhere around there. And I went to my family. I said, I'm going to be a film director when I graduate high school. And they were like, no, you're going to be a nurse. Like, we come from a family of nurses. Like, what else? What are you thinking about? And so I was like, oh, man, no, I want to make movies. And to a conservative immigrant family, if you say you're going to make movies, that's like, you want to be poor? Like, what you going to do? How you going to put food on the table? So I became a certified nursing assistant. CNA, it's even lower than a nurse, right? It's not even at the nurse level. And I was responsible for feeding patients, cleaning patients. I would take care of them. And in those moments where I would see the TV and watch the elderly watch, I was like, that's what I should be doing, But, I just said, maybe one day. And after a while, I said, you know what? If this ever came back in my life in the future, I'll seize that opportunity. And 15 years later, I'm 34 now. I made these films around 32, 33, just like 2 or 3 years ago, I want to get close to making movies. And I thought that the closest thing was being a journalist. And I went to school for journalism, and I became a reporter. And from there, I realized that if you constantly report the news, some of that comes to you. And, they say, if it bleeds, it leads, that type of stuff. I just, all that took a toll on my health, my mentality. And so I said, let me try being in the nonprofit sector. So I did that for like 5 years. So like most of my life was spent doing different things. And when the pandemic hit, that's when I said, the world has stopped in a way. This is my time to write, do something. And I locked myself in the closet after seeing some of these like crazy hate crimes that were happening in the community for the elder Asian community. And I said, what if I could rewrite this story? Because that's what movies are. They're ways to share this powerful vision to raise an awareness of either concept, philosophy. And so I wanted to share what was happening with these hate crimes. And I wrote that script, and that script became a movie, and it got picked up. When your parents don't support you, it kind of makes you feel like, man, especially me growing up a conservative family, I'm the only child. I listened to my family in every decision. And when they said, don't do something, as a Filipino American, I just won't do it. I don't go against the grain. I obey what my family says. It's like, it's kind of hard to deviate from that. I did feel like, man, let me just go against their wishes. But I didn't have the courage to do so because I felt like as the only child growing up, I was like, I gotta, my family came here to America with nothing, grew up poor to create me, and I'm the legacy of my family. So they're more important to me than the dream. So whatever they want from me, that's what I'll respect. And so I took the choice and I said, all right, I'll be a CNA. And in my mind, I said, maybe one day I'll get to, make a film or something like that. I looked forward to the future. And it took a while for it to revisit back. But as I was doing it, I was very regretful of like, I should have done this. I should have been a movie director and all this stuff. But I was happy though at the end of the day, knowing that, my family just wants what's best for me. I don't think there was ever a moment where I felt that I'm gonna do me now. I think everything I've done in my life, even till this day, is like to like please my parents. You know, it's like all for my family, because I'm just so grateful that I'm nothing without my family. So till this day, I have a great relationship with my mom, my dad, and they're still together. You know, a lot of families sometimes don't make it, and so I just feel like I never had that, like, I'm gonna do it whether they like it or not, you know? So, and that's probably why it took me this long at 33 to direct my film, or 32. So I'd say the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life, there's a lot of hard things, but reflecting on it here, the thing that comes to my mind is being able to not run away when a bunch of gangsters were surrounding me in a park to haze me into a gang. You know, I was 13 at the time, and I was just trying to hang out with someone, because, you know, I didn't have an older brother. I didn't have just somebody I could look up to. Was just walking to the grocery store one night, a bunch of gangsters. I was like 13, so they were like 30 or 25. Like, they're just, you know, older people. They saw me and they asked me, hey, you want to come kick it with us? You want to hang out? And, you know, wanting to be accepted, I said, yeah. You know, I was so like, sure. And they picked me up, and I rode with them. And when I thought I was gonna hang out, they pretty much just surrounded me in a circle. And that moment where I guess I had to do something or flee, I've never faced a moment like that in my life. And I mean, till this day, I mean, you know, I'm 34 and nobody's ever surrounded me and tried to haze me in a gang. At least now I could use my negotiation skills. But reflecting back at that moment at 13 and realizing that, being surrounded, I did see the street and I said, I could just run right now, you know? But then I said, no, if I run, they might catch me or something. You know, they got cars, there's 3 cars and 15 of them, you know, 5 people per car. And I was like, dang, they're all taking out their gloves, like something's gonna happen. And then they say, if you wanna hang out with us, you gotta fight this guy. And I saw the guy and I was like, man, this, you know, I don't wanna look like a, excuse my language. So I said, all right, I'm gonna fight this guy. And then, right when I balled my fist, I mean, what's my choice? If I don't fight him, they're gonna beat me up anyway. I mean, you know, so it's like, I can't run, I can't beat this guy. It's like, if you want to fight, you can't, you gotta fight. So, right when I balled up my fist, somebody behind me kicked me behind my legs and I fell down. And then from there, they all rushed me. They were like, go get him, rush him. And then I saw all these fists hitting me, just like, pop, 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 pop. But I didn't feel it, which is crazy. I thought it would be the most painful thing, but I didn't feel anything. And I, you know, just tried to dodge it. I curled up in a ball, and then I would hear them scream, like, you know, kick him, you know, kick it, like, you know, whatever. I would just hear kick, punch, beat them, you know, blah. And then, you know, I actually managed to get up, and then someone grabbed me. I got up, and I ran. I was like, all right, I made it. And somebody grabbed me and threw me back down, and they still kept, you know, beating me up. And then probably after, you know, I don't know, 2 minutes or so, they stopped, and then they just said, welcome to the family. And I realized, oh shit, I'm part of a gang, you know, and I'm not even trying to. It gives me anxiety right now to share it, but it happens to other people, I guess. You know, that's the traditional way to initiate someone. I loved Goodfellas, I loved The Godfather, and this was something hitting me from the side of, I guess it's different when a real gang approaches you and you know, inducts you or initiates you into something. So, I don't know. I guess there's a cross between movies and reality, and that was my cross right there. Oh, I felt I was all messed up. Like, I had a cut here, I was cut here, I was, you know, I was bleeding, I was bruised, but dropped me off home on my doorstep. My mother worked 2 jobs for like 20 years, so she came home. My dad was in the Navy, so he was deployed, so she had to come home late to just see me, like, just passed out there. And she's a nurse, so she took care of me right away, and she's like, tell me what happened, and then I didn't want to tell her. And so she's like, I'm gonna homeschool you then. You're not gonna go back out there. And then I was like, oh shoot, okay. I mean, if anyone was to go home to see their son or daughter, you know, beat up and everything, it would be really, you know, devastating. So they would probably, I understood why she did it. So, from all those painful memories or experiences, I look back at it now as like blessings to show me, that, you know, this happened to you, you survived it. now you need to share with others how they could perhaps avoid these problems or not go through the same thing. Don't get curious to join a gang. Well, I mean, in my case, I just want to hang out with the badass people around the block, not knowing I'd, be a victim of something. So, but how it helps my work today is that I realized I want to tell more stories of people like me that grew up in these type of areas. I wanted to tell more stories featuring, Asian Americans, something that I could look at and be inspired by and watch. That's how it shapes my work today. And even in the things that I write, I'll include, some of the things in my past. So those memories help me. So for the first film that we did, Almighty Zeus, I put, Latino gangs, I put Asian gangs, I put, the black gangs. So the silver lining that unites it all was that underdog story of how do we rise when our community and everything and all the odds are against us, but also how do we stand up to injustice. And that was the plot line of our protagonist seeing an old Asian man getting bullied, and he steps in, but that kind of spirals into other events. So I do try to find a way to thread all that in the stories I write. Oh, yes, one of the happiest days of my life is marrying my wife and proposing to her. And I did something very simple by just taking her to church. We usually walked around Pasadena. We were living in Pasadena at the time, and we would always just pray in the chapel on a Saturday morning or a weekday, just whenever, she's off. We just like, hey, let's go pray for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then go have lunch. So I decided to, propose to her because, spirituality, God, is at the center of our relationship. And I thought, most people get, proposed to on the beach and all these cool places. And I just said, the most important thing to me is God. So I'm going to propose in front of God and my wife, future wife. So we went to church, we prayed, and after 5 minutes, I just got down on one knee and I just proposed to her there. Basically, the proposal that I did, I realized from that point, after the proposal on, I didn't know that it was going to be this crazy to get married because we're at the beginning of the pandemic. And so I was on this journey of trying to get wedding vendors, locations, and everything was booked. So I was like, man, this is crazy. Like, finally, I'm ready to marry the love of my life, and I can't even do it. So I remember telling her mother this, like, hey, everything's booked. And then, these questions would come out of nowhere, like, okay, well, you guys could just get married in the backyard, or you guys could do something, And then it sounded like I was just telling the truth, but it sounded like I'm trying to get out of marriage. The way, because imagine telling your future mother-in-law, like, all the caterers are taken. There's no more, venues taken. Like, she'll be like, are you serious? Are you really trying to get married or not? So, there was like friction there that even made my, fiance cry. Cause she was like, we're trying, Chris is trying to really marry, me. And, just in the Filipino culture, it's like, you got to do it right and you got to make it big. And there's no running away, going to Vegas and coming back, So that experience, I wrote into a screenplay. I said, hey, I told my wife, I said, if we could make this into a movie, that would showcase to other grooms and brides how to put on a wedding in the craziest time. If I could do it, maybe they'll learn. And so that was the premise of the movie. And that one got picked up too. We made that into a film, and we put actually our real wedding in the movie. Yes, the movie's called The Wedding Hustler. You could check out The Wedding Hustler on February 7th on Amazon Prime and also Apple TV. So you can see Zeus, Almighty Zeus, and The Wedding Hustler on Amazon Prime. And The Master Chief we're releasing on Veterans Day, November 11th this year. My goal is to develop Skinny Fat. It's a story it's a rom-com, and I'm really excited that we can tell a unique twist of a rom-com where our protagonist suffers with a minor disability, where he has the love of his life that he wants to talk to, but he has something holding him back, and that's having the smallest penis in the world. And also, how does that affect him? But what's interesting about his condition is that there are some days where it becomes very, very large. So what do you do when you're going on that date and you're meeting the love of your life and you've got the smallest one in the world. And when she goes home and life is good, it becomes one of the biggest ones. So timing, not letting some of our personal disabilities hold us back. What is true love? What's superficial? So those are some of the questions that I want to bring out in this movie. Oh, okay, I thought you were like, I gotta ask, how big is it? So where I was inspired by this story is because, growing up, they would always say, what is the male ego? Where does size matter? It's everything for a guy to grow up and be like, man, am I tall enough? Am I big enough? So I wanted to just answer every male's self-conscious theme in this movie. Because if you got the smallest and you got the biggest, you're definitely gonna want to know that guy's perspective. And I created a character that has those both. Yes, it is done. We have, it just needs to be reworked in terms of comedic timing, because there's certain scenarios where I'm not gonna ruin it, but how do you pull off showing it without showing it? It's always hard to write that in the screenplay, because if we just showed a giant penis, this would be a pornographic film. Oh, it's interesting because I'm not like a really trained screenwriter. I've only written the past films I've done, and
you're doing it.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I'm doing it.
You're doing it.
And I don't know if I'm doing it in accordance to like the guidelines or how to do a traditional. So, but I just lead with faith that somehow it works out, and I get feedback from other writers. Oh, the hardest part for me was pushing past the. What's funny is it wasn't hard really writing the screenplay. It's challenging to stay focused and things like that. But what's hard is the actual day on set and hearing the community around me not really believing in what I'm trying to do. Like, I remember some of the crew members would be like, oh man, how many movies has this guy done? Is this gonna look all right? Is our checks gonna bounce? Is this guy gonna pay us? Some of those things, because, I've never directed anything. I've never written anything. So they're moving with faith. Yeah, exactly. But to still move past that, it made me feel like maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not going to be able to finish this movie. Man, I got to worry about craft services here in about 30 minutes. I got to make sure I got a vegan option. And then on top of that, I got to make sure the shot is okay. And then I got to memorize my lines. It's just all these things would, because me and my wife, we executive produce, I direct, I write, I act, and I also make sure the food's there. I clean up, I set design sometimes. So it's a lot of stuff. And to hear when the people that are fighting with you are starting to be discouraged or not believe in you, it creates a, man, you can't replace them. You gotta show them that you can do this with them. And then when they see it, which they won't see till months, so they kind of see you later, good luck with the project, and then they see, wow, they got picked up by a major distribution deal. Damn, they're on Amazon Prime. Dang, hire me for your next one. So it's like, all right, much love and respect, It just made me feel good afterward knowing that I did not respond in a negative way in the situation, but I just took it and used it to allow me to get through the project the right way. Because some people might be like, man, get off the set if you don't want to be on the set, or hey, I could hear you, man. Could y'all talk over there or something like that? If you don't want to be here, you don't got to be here, But instead, I just would hear those comments and just keep moving forward. Movies are great and everything. I feel like, we put so much effort into the movies we make, but I think also at the end of the day, it's about what are we doing to better our communities? Are we, who are we giving back to? It's the work that we don't show that are actually helping people that matters most to me versus the movies that we're making. Movies are amazing. I love it, but if my kids if I were to pass away and they're like, oh, my dad was dope. What'd your dad do? Man, I don't want to talk about movies first. I want to be like, my dad, helped build a hospital. He helped, feed a bunch of homeless people every day. He was at this place. So I got a thing on my phone called a service log, and it's things that I want to do that, I ain't sharing on social or, I'm not, just things for myself that maybe my kids will see in the future, or something I could do with my wife to give back. So I don't know if they made a plaque, this guy did some cool stuff in the community. I feel like with success, it's, when I was younger, I used to think it's monetary, like how much money you got in the bank. But I feel like success is getting better than where you were before. like the iPhone, you see iPhone like 10, 11, 12 now, but like I feel like my first version of my first movie was like an iPhone 1. The Wedding Hustler is now like an iPhone 2, and I'm just getting better every single time. So that's my vision of success. So the advice I would give my younger self, the one that was beat up by a gang and all that, would probably be to not, lose your faith and stay strong and, fight and stand up for yourself and don't flee, because you're in a situation right now where if you fled, you'd probably get shot, you'd probably get stabbed. You're cornered. So just know it's not gonna hurt, but fight to defend yourself and don't lose your faith along the way. Yes, I did have a lot of great mentors. My uncle, Ramon, he taught me faith. He taught me how to pray. I grew up Catholic and, I never really paid attention in church. My uncle taught me how to just open the Bible and start reading, start praying. And so he was a strong mentor in my life. And also I had some good teachers, like my journalism teacher, Professor McCormick. Sorry, I'm like listing all my mentors. A lot of books I'd read, like, those are like my mentors in a way. If there's any filmmakers or artists out there, I just want to tell them that if you're resourceful, if you could learn to do what you want to do without spending a lot of money, I think that's a secret or life hack to really getting ahead. I think some people stop themselves because, they don't have the investment to make a movie. They don't have the camera to make the perfect film. And now I'm not saying go bust out your iPhone and think you can make a whole cinematic film, which some people can, but I'm saying use your negotiation, your leverage, be resourceful. Back to the Godfather reference, make people an offer they can't refuse, and maybe you'll get a lot closer to your endeavor, whatever it is.
And that's a wrap for today's show of Feed Courage. I'm your host, Oz from Leadwolf. I hope you had some valuable insights and really got inspired from our guests. If you have any comments or questions for them, please leave them below. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel. If you or someone you know has an inspiring story, send us a DM. We'd love to have you on our show. Until next time.